What's going on, amazing people of YouTube and Facebook? Welcome back to another episode today, guys. So this isn't quite a video, but basically just a podcast, but I wanted to cover a couple major topics in the tech world right now. Primarily, Apple announced at WWDC a couple weeks ago that they are switching to their own silicon for their Mac computers starting at the end of this year. They say they'll be releasing their first batch of new Mac computers, which is rumored to be a MacBook Air alongside new MacBook Pros. Now, the current rumor going around is that these new MacBook Pros will just be updated versions with basically the same design that we see currently with these MacBook Pro 13-inch, and I don't know if the 16 inches will be updated, but I guess they're saying at least the 13-inch MacBook Pros and 13-inch MacBook Airs. Now, next year we'll see updated designs for these computers and a new 16-inch. But we're going to start seeing Apple Silicon in their computers as early as late this year. So that was the major highlight for this event at WWDC, which of course was all digital. There was no audience this year. Now, I want to give a couple thoughts on that alone. I thought they did a really great job of that video presentation. I thought it was going to be quite lame because it was not live in front of the audience, but they actually did quite well. It was really well put together, which we had no doubt it would be. It is Apple. But I thought it was still, not entertaining. It was informative. It was well organized, well presented. And so I really give Apple a lot of credit for doing that, despite this terrible situation with COVID-19, which unfortunately now is still going on. Thankfully, my state, New York, is now less of a hotbed for it, but it was for a long time the epicenter of this pandemic. But anyhow, so who knows what will happen with that? But because they had to do it digitally, it was anyone's guess how it would turn out or how it would be received, but a lot of people were pleased with how Apple did WWDC, and there was a lot announced, a lot was discussed in terms of iOS and iPadOS and watchOS and all these things. So I want to cover all of that individually. So instead of doing a video with all those topics and having it be like an hour long, I think I'll just kind of make it a little bit less info for you guys. And so for this one, we'll just stick to Apple Silicon, which I think is deserving of its own podcast alone, because this is a major step in the right direction for Macs. You know, I will say my relationship with Apple computers, specifically their Mac notebooks, especially the last few years, has been love-hate. Which, if you've seen my past videos, you'll know that that's the case. Because I love Macs, the same. Let me explain why I love them. I love them because of the creative side of things. When I'm doing video editing, photo editing, anything creative tasks that I might be doing for YouTube or whatever else I'm doing for a client or something like that, the creative suite of apps on Mac will always be top-notch, king. They'll take the cake, however you want to say it. The Mac will always be number one for that. There's just nothing, in my opinion at least, that comes close on the Windows side of the house that I enjoy using nearly as much. But in terms of productivity, when it's time to take off the creative hat and put on the business hat, that's when I feel like Mac kind of falls flat. Because you know how it is. Microsoft gives us the watered down suite of Office apps. You get Outlook, you get Word, Excel, PowerPoint. You don't really get the full range of the suite of Office apps that you would get natively on Windows. So that's a real downside. So when it comes to working on anything on the business side of things, I just naturally gravitate towards Windows. And that will not change, I don't think, ever, especially not in the foreseeable future, unless Microsoft, by some surprise move, brought the entire Office suite over to Mac OS. So, with that being said, there's definitely a need in my workflow for both Mac OS and Windows. But the issue with Mac is that Apple has taken, in my opinion, a very lazy approach to innovation. It kind of just stopped. I mean, maybe this is why. Maybe it was all leading up to this decision to move to Apple Silicon. You know, and for those of you less tech geeks out there that might not be so tech geeky, Silicon is just the brains of the system, you know, like the CPU, or the processor, so to speak. And, you know, it can be, eventually, I think Apple will actually make their own GPUs as well. They're going to move away from AMD as well, that's my guess. But basically, Silicon is just the brains of the computer, which were previously made by Intel. Now we are seeing them beginning this slow, systematic transition to, of course, their own Silicon, which we already have. And again, these are called ARM or ARM processors, and they are already being used in iPads. They have been for years, but especially in the iPad Pros, these are really powerful chips that Apple can just make it so powerful in these iPad Pros. I mean, I'm using the iPad Pro 12.9-inch right now to create this podcast, and there's just, I would say, limitless. There's so many things that you can throw at this iPad, and it just never slows down. And that is, if there's no better testament to the need for Apple Silicon, that's it. And I am a firm believer in this. And, you know, at first I was a little bit on the fence about whether I thought that Apple should just tell Intel to go, you know, take a hike. But as I thought about it and I looked at the reasoning behind it, I realized it makes 100% total sense, because Apple doesn't need Intel for this, okay? The benefits of Apple changing to their own custom silicon in the Macs will far outweigh any downsides, thanks to the fact that they are being very, very careful with developers to ensure that these applications will be compatible, and they have created and again, I'm not a computer programmer by default. That's not my actual forte, but I have dabbled in it a little bit with coding. But what they've done with Xcode is they've made a universal compatibility, so that developers can easily make their apps compatible across both platforms now, whether it be iPad OS or Mac OS. And I really believe that we're going to see the two converge. Now, Apple has long said that's not their intent. They don't want to merge iOS and Mac OS. But Apple can be tricky with their language. So they might say they're not intending to merge right now, but 8-10 years down the road, who knows? I really believe that's where Apple's headed. We're going to see much less differences in the design language between iPads and Macs, which I think is amazing. I think that's a wonderful step in the right direction, because NACs for years, as I said earlier, have been neglected in terms of innovation. Apple has chosen to just taken the laziest approach possible and just releasing the same designs year after year, while I hate to say it, but PC manufacturers years ago started implementing innovative designs and features, whether it be, obviously touchscreens, which I kind of get why Apple has been resistant to touchscreens on the Macs for a while. They didn't want to cannibalize the sales of the iPad Pros, and also for other reasons, I'm sure. But times have changed now. Things are changing, and I do believe that we are going to see these Macs evolve into more innovative systems that you would want to purchase in the year 2020 or 2021, I guess, basically, next year. And I think that Macs will start to reflect the innovation that Apple has given to the iPad Pros since basically 2018. So it's very exciting. The future of Mac is very exciting. Now, what does this mean for you, the consumer, in terms of Apple Silicon, and should you buy a Mac right now that has an Intel CPU? That's like the number one thing that everyone on YouTube is talking about. Everyone is stating their opinions. I don't think it really takes too much discussion to answer that question. It goes like this, guys. It's pretty simple. If you need a Mac right now, buy a Mac. If you're starting school, hopefully starting college in the fall with all this pandemic crap going on, hopefully starting college in the fall, if you are, you might need a Mac for school. And that's if you are doing a creative major and you need it for that. If you just prefer to have a Mac for your work, that's cool too. And you don't want to wait until next year or late this year, just get a Mac now. You're not going to be hurting. The reason why I said on Facebook, I think a week or two ago, I did say I strongly advise people to wait if they can, because I do believe there's an advantage, there's a benefit to waiting until 2021, if you can, because Apple Silicon is the direction that Apple is going. So the custom chips will obviously bring enhanced performance, greatly enhanced performance to their computers, which obviously is a benefit to the consumer. So if you can wait that long, and other reasons too, I do believe that these Apple Silicon Macs will probably feature innovations, not innovations, well, I shouldn't say that, but just modern features like Face ID and things like that probably Intel Macs will not have, as Apple looks to encourage consumers to change over to Apple-based Silicon Macs. So, if you can wait, I think that would be advantageous for anybody. But if you can't wait, don't be depressed about it. Don't simply choose not to buy one. I mean, if you need one, if you don't currently own a Mac, that's one thing. But hey, if you own a Mac currently, it's doing just fine for you, it's running fine, you don't feel the need to upgrade, then yeah, stick it out until Apple releases its first line of their own custom silicon Macs, and then you'll be good to go. So that's my take on that. It doesn't take that much discussion. It's if you can wait, I strongly suggest waiting. But if you need one, you have an absolute need for a Mac right now, don't be upset about it. Get one now, that's fine too. But just know that there will be updated models coming with Apple Silicon, and again, that may come with its own range of benefits, but you're not really getting a bad investment by getting a Mac sooner. It's just not, I guess it's that argument of Apple will eventually say, well, we're not going in this direction of Intel. So, they have claimed that they're going to support Intel-based Macs for years to come. Now, that's the language Apple used. They said years to come. Now, Apple has been very well known, and this is my only cautionary tale that I'm going to tell you about this, is that Apple is well known to make their opinion or make their stance known about something. So while they might say, yeah, we'll support Intel-based Macs for years to come, it might just mean literally just that. They'll support it, but they will not show any further love than they have to. That's for sure. So just know that going into that investment, if you do get a Mac before they change over to Apple-based, Apple's custom silicon, just know that they will definitely, they'll make it well known that they want consumers to go in that direction. So, with all that being said, I hope you guys found this podcast useful. So, that's my thoughts on Apple Silicon Macs coming later this year, and whether or not you should get a Mac now or late. In my next set of videos, I'll be discussing the new version of iOS as well as iPadOS, and I'll be going through some of the key changes in those as well. Of course, we now have widgets in iOS, which is a long overdue feature that, I don't know, Apple might be too late to the game on that one, but we'll see, because they did implement the widgets very nicely. It's very Apple-like, but I'll cover that in my next video. Until then, guys, thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you in my next video.